All right. So we're gonna keep working through this. Let's go ahead and get our city page.view working. It should be really pretty simple. And this is gonna be a script setup, but it should be pretty straightforward. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna actually create what's called a suspense. And so a suspense is going to be something that it's kind of like an asynchronous component where you have one thing that you're kind of waiting to render, and then another thing that is going to be there in the meantime until the first thing renders, right? So it's going to hold it in place in suspense until it's resolved, right? So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to say suspense about like that, and we're going to pass in, we're going to do, for right now, we're just going to say, we're just going to have an H1 suspense is over. And then inside of this, we're going to have a template. And in this, we will have, awaiting. We're going to do trembling with suspense. And I wish I could put emojis directly into VS Code because I did a little eyeballs thing, but we're not going to do that. And so we're going to do one last thing. We're going to have fallback. That should be there. Really, this shouldn't show up because the suspense, this should be instantaneous. We don't need to like wait for the H1 to actually load. But that's pretty much what we'll have here. And so again, if we come over here and we refresh the page and we type in, Chicago, and we click on it, it says the suspense is over. And it also tells it there's an experimental feature and the API will likely change. So if this doesn't work for you, check the documentation. I should have updates for this if they do change that. But if they don't, or if I don't catch it in time and you got to figure out your own, then feel free to pioneer some of this stuff on your own. Because I think at this point we understand Vue pretty well, and we're just kind of exploring some of the finer tools of how this all works. So, great. So the suspense is over, and you come back here, and that's all groovy. All right. So that's going to be this. Eventually, we're going to make a component here. And that's actually going to be the next thing that we do, I believe. I just make sure that I'm doing this in a smart order. But I don't think we're using, I think this actually gets used inside of other stuff. Yes. So that's fine. And this is our city list. And that includes our city. Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, nice. Okay, so this is just a giant map, basically. Neat. So let's go ahead and work on our async city page, because this is going to be basically what displays. Let's do async city, and close that, and then in our setup we're going to import async city from, we haven't made this yet, so we need to go ahead and create it. It's called async city.view. And we'll do vbase setup. That'll be fine. We don't need our CSS. Just go away, and that'll be good. And we can go back to our city page and finish the import here. So you say import async city from, and this should be under components. And I don't know why that didn't want to import well, but then we got it. So, and we should be able to do in here, suspense is over. We could do, let's see if I can spell this. Denouement. I think that's how you spell that. So now when I go to Chicago, I want to look at Chicago, there's suspense, and we get the denouement, which is, again, in literature, that's the like final moment of excitement in the story. So that's basically it. So we have the denouement, and that just means that thing works. So we're just piping this through our city page as this, and there was no need for any trembling. All right, so we've got, that's done. And eventually we're gonna make another component instead of that. Instead of this, we're gonna have another component here that hangs out for a second and waits while we're anticipating the async city actually appears. But that's basically what we got for that. So let's go ahead and make our async city. And so we're gonna put in here, we'll have a class equals flex call. Flex one items dash center. That should already be visible once that kind of re-renders. If it'll let us. There we go. Now it's in the middle. Nice. Hooray. And we're going to actually put in, so we're going to have a div. And this will have class of text white. I need to be careful to spell these right because this keeps throwing my code. P4 BG secondary with full and text center. And we can blah, blah, check this, make sure that it works. That looks nice enough. So blah, blah, cool. Not super enthusiastic about the way that that color is rendering on my screen right now, but actually, so I use a TV for my main monitor, and it looks a lot better on my MacBook than my TV. So that's just something else to consider, is try looking at it like on your phone or a cheaper monitor and see what that kind of looks like. I want to just quickly compare this to my localhost 5175, just in case you've forgotten kind of what we're actually making here. Go to the dashboard. Chicago. Yeah, that was not right. Chicago. Here we go. And that's going to be our suspense. It's going to be our waiting thing. Yeah, I might actually change this instead of background secondary. I might just change this to like a really light gray kind of a thing across there, just because that color does not look good to me right now. It's fine in other places, like when I'm hovering over this. Those are all that's fine to me there, but I might change this to something else. And then we got the rest of this, and we're gonna make this cool slider too. That's pretty fun. And also notice that our scroll bar is gone on the side of the page. Yeah, instead of this, I think we're gonna do just background slate, like maybe 200. It's a really light gray. It might not be very easy to read. It also didn't work. Oh, because it has no content. Well, no, it should have content. It should say blah, blah. Oh, because it's on this one. There we go. Silly me. That's why we don't do that. But anyways, one last look at this before we move on. And cool. So we got our Chicago weather and the time and stuff and all that. So that's nice. Great. Groovy. And pop out of that. I might just make this a little bit darker, make it 300. Just because that is pretty absurdly light. Yeah, see ya. Don't need that. Okay, so blah, blah. And we'll probably make the text black there. Just if it's going to be that light. Need that instead. There we go. That looks pretty legible. Great. And only because the next section is going to be dark is kind of the only reason why I'd be doing that. So we're going to say you are, oh, we need one other thing here. So this is actually going to have a, because this is something we want to only show sometimes. So we can say v if equals, and we're going to build this obviously in our JavaScript later, route.query.preview. So we're going to end up having to establish that down here. We got these little dots there. It says, we don't know what that is. It doesn't exist. Bah! So we're going to say you are previewing this location. Please click the, and we're going to do that little plus sign. Whoops. Icon to track this city. Great. And so that should show up there, and I'll refresh the page. It should have that little message at the top. Something's mad, and that's fine. We'll just come back and do this later. Maybe refresh the page. There it is. All right, cool, great, whatever. So we're just gonna make sure that we remember to do that. Great, and this should be fine. Cool, so that should be the end of that div, and then we're gonna have another div, and this will be, let's make sure that I'm getting this right. Collapse that, make sure that's good. Yeah, all right, so this is all inside of that div. Great. So next div, we're gonna have div.maxWscreen, press tab, and then finish this up. W-full, py-12, which is pretty sizable, flex, justify, center, background, slate, and this was a much darker one. I think this was 500 that I ended up putting in here. Yep, and we're gonna have shadow large. Cool. And inside of this, we're gonna have another div. Div.maxWscreen medium. And in this, we're going to put in h2 dot mb-4 for bottom margin. And this will say hourly weather. So this is going to be that little scrolly widget thing that we had at the top. So you got this. That's all great. And I just want to check and see actually if our fonts are the same actually. Yeah, it is. It's just a different color, so that's all groovy. All right, cool. And so, oh, I missed a div. Hold on. I'm gonna wrap this real quick. Div. There we go. And this will be mx8. Oh, it needs to be inside class. Class equals mx-8 and text white. And so this will apply that white text to everything inside of this div, and that should look better. There you go. That looks nice. Cool. So we got our hourly weather. We have another div here. Lots of divs. But if you took HTML CSS with me, you know that divs are free. You have as many divs as you like, and no one will ever tell you to have less divs. Gap 10 it needs to be a dot gap dash 10. And then overflow dash x dash scroll. And that needs to actually execute, please. Thank you. And we need to have a style here too, I believe. Yeah, scroll bar. We're gonna have a style here. So the style is gonna be, and there's so again, this is one of those things. Scroll bar color dark. This is gonna be one of those things where we could probably find a way of doing this with the, and I just want to show you this one. You could probably use the square brackets where it does that just-in-time compiling thing. This should be our scroll bar eventually. Right now it's defaulted to white in the middle because this is the entire thing. And please keep in mind as well that we do still have, oh, we don't have them in here yet. Did I put these in? Oh, that's not even the right one from this. Okay, hold on. There we go. So what we'll do, we're going to copy these in. And all that's going on here is this is just saying that it's just going to attach to the scroll bar. It comes from the WebKit part, the library or whatever of our HTML. Just the built-in stuff from Google Chrome. Please be aware that if you're using Firefox, this will not work. There's actually extra commands for Firefox. But since most people use Chrome, we're just going to roll with this. And Firefox will just dial back to their defaults. It just won't look as pretty for them. We got our scroll bar track, and scroll bar thumb. So our thumb should be this orange, and the track should be this gray. Should be able to come back here. Yep. So now it's a nice light gray instead of white. And eventually we should be able to get, if it's scrollable, we should be able to get that orange thing there. Cool. Yeah. So this is what it's going to end up looking like. It's this nice light orange with that light gray in the back, and that actually looks pretty good to me. Cool. Head back to our async city. That's great. So our scroll bar color actually doesn't matter, but so we just get rid of that. Actually, not sure where they came from. Yep. Cool. Fine. Didn't matter. All right. Great. So inside of our div here, go back and find where I was in our code. Inside of this, you'll be shocked to discover we have another one. And this one has a few things going on, so we're going to go ahead and do it this way. This is going to be class equals, and we'll come back and give this functionality later, but flex call gap dash 4, and then items dash center. Because eventually what we're going to be doing is looping over these, and for each of these, we're basically going to make, come back here, we're going to make each of these a v4, right? We're going to have each of these components inside of this for every hour that we have in our daily hours. We're going to do a little bit of funky math grossness to actually get the times figured out, but time is a tricky one. It's a little bit annoying and kind of hard to mess around with. And so, but we have to write that. We have to write that JavaScript down the road, and that'll be its own thing. So And we actually should be right here. Let's go ahead and add a comment for hourly weather, because that's what we're making right now. Cool. So we'll have that, and then inside of our div, and again, what we're creating right now, this is going to end up getting looped over. So we're just creating one of those things. We're going to do p tag, and our class is going to be white space, no wrap, and then text dash medium. And what are we going to put in it? We're going to put in, well, this will be interesting. We're going to have some JavaScript. We're going to say new date. And how are we going to establish this? We're going to say our data, which we haven't made yet, dot current time. Oops. And then to locale time string, should be time string. And be English-US. And we're going to take it in an object, and it's going to say the hour is going to be numeric. So this is just some like styling for dates. Again, if you want to look into this a little bit more closely, we're going to have some more stuff there. I think the hour data is, oh no, that's what we're actually going to be looping over. So we're just going to go ahead and get this figured out. Even though we don't have the weather data hourly figured out, we're just going to go ahead and do this. So v-4, and you just have to believe me, we're going to make weather data in a bit. Our data in weather data, which is the one thing that doesn't exist yet, dot hourly. And then because we're looping, we're going to need to have keys, right? So this is for React, for Vue, for anytime you're messing with the DOM, you have to be able to tell the DOM, hey, I'm going to make some specific things. .dt. And so, again, with the keys, we're going to end up having errors in Vue or React or whatever. When you're looping over things or mapping over things, you have to pass in a key because the DOM needs to keep track of each of those things so that it doesn't end up with memory leaks and things like that. All right, that is a lot of divs there. It's not even all of them. But let's go ahead and get some of our data basically started. And yeah, we don't have any actual weather yet. So, oh man, this is the one component that always throws me, is because it's just got so much going on here. Because yeah, and right now it's not going to work. It's screaming mad. And there's no data to be shown, and it's really hard to write dummy data. It'd be really hard to like fake it. So basically, we're just going to have to be on this document for a while. We're going to do it in a few parts. So let's go ahead and just finish this component here. There's not a whole lot left to it now. Once the p tag is done, we're going to have an image. Image, and this will be class is going to be with auto. Height is going to be set to 50 pixels. And then object cover is going to be one more attribute we give. The source, and again, this is a nifty thing with Vue. We can just bind the source from someplace. And we're going to just say, oh, some URL here, and that will obviously also cause an error, and it'll be all mad. Alt equals weather type. And then we can just close this off like that. And so that'll end up being put in the middle. And so that is, again, not going to show up here because it's not real yet. But this is going to be each of these things based on what the weather's doing. And it looks like Chicago's weather is just going to be terrible for a while. Cool. So we got that. And then we're going to have one last thing here. We have a p tag. And inside of this, we're going to write some JavaScript again. And we need to actually import something for this. So we're going to finish this real quick. Class equals text dash XL. But inside of this, we actually need to do another import. So we're going to come over here and we're going to do npm install math. It should be fine. That should show up in our package.json now that our math is there. I think that's the right thing. Hopefully it is. Yep, that is correct. So we can go back to our async city components. And now we can use math. And again, this is just the math object from JavaScript. We've used this before. in regular JavaScript, we're going to say our data.temp. And then after this, so the JavaScript will render, and it will actually have some string here that we can use, and we're going to add the and deg sign here, and so that'll be a character entity representing the degree sign that will end up showing up there. And this still should not be doing much of anything. And it should still be hopping mad. Yes, because it's like, I don't know what your data is, and it's because we're looping over something that doesn't even exist. It's like, what is the weather data? I don't know any of what's going on here. This is nonsense. But now that should be basically done. We're going to obviously have to update some URL as well. But we'll get to that in a second because, what's my time out here? 20 minutes. We're going to call that a video. Again, if you want to have a better look at some of the kind of the whole thing here, we can just look at it like this, so that you get a nice look at the end of the video for what all is going on and all the stuff that we typed. So if you need to pause to make sure it's the same, go ahead and do that. Or you might want to come back to this later. You can just bookmark it. And but then we're going to do the JavaScript to actually handle this, so then we actually should have some data populating. That requires attaching to another API. I'll see you there.